My name's the Indy Kid. This is the Talkin VAWLS podcast. Welcome to the day after Ole Miss edition. Thanks for tuning in with us, guys. Feel like coming off of a good nap and able to bring this to you guys. But just want to give a shout out to all of our listeners, opposing fans, and all last night as we had over 900 people with us up until the wee hours of the morning. Went till close to 2 o'clock in the morning. Pretty cool that we had so many of you with us last night. So thank you. Thank you on behalf of the Talkin VAWLS podcast. This is the day after, once again, Ole Miss. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. Let's get into it. A lot to cover here in the next 10 or so minutes. Try to keep it as short as possible. But Ole Miss comes into Knoxville, wins 31-26. Interesting night, to say the least. A lot to take apart from it. Tough loss for Tennessee. You know, we can say all we want, all the factors that factored in, but Tennessee had a chance 3 different times in the fourth quarter to take the lead, and they just did not get it done. But I'm still proud of this team. I'm proud of this staff for what they've done. There were people, and we even probably as early as a few weeks back didn't expect this really to be a close game. And then Missouri happened. South Carolina happened. And that mood changed. And it wasn't as high scoring a game as anyone predicted, but I think you got to give both sides credit for making plays on defense. Definitely got to give Ole Miss credit for plays on defense. Tennessee had a hard time keeping Matt Corral in the pocket. I think we maybe underestimated how good he is. He is a stud. There's no doubt about it. And I think he won that game for them because if you load up on him to stop his legs, he's going to beat you passing and vice versa. And we talked about it a little bit last night. The only thing I can think of other that Tennessee maybe could have tried, and I don't even know that would have worked, was maybe you use like Theo Jackson and Turnage as spies opposed to Banks and Beasley. But again, I don't know. I mean, if a lineman gets loose and gets over on the block, it's an easy block for them as well. So, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's just that's facing a great player. That's what happens there. But on a night, Tennessee is still that team with their depth issues and had more injuries last night that really hurt their depth, had key players out. They just can't afford mistakes. And, you know, they had the muff punt after stopping Ole Miss on the first drive. You know, a 49-yard field goal is a long field goal. You got to have them. We got to have these at some point. If Tennessee has that now, I guess the devil's advocate argument can be, well, Ole Miss missed one as well, so it evened out. But still yet, Tennessee hits that 49-yard field goal. They're kicking a field goal to win it at the end. And but that's not the case. Lots of lots of questions on what Tennessee's game plan was. I don't know if Ole Miss just shut them, because I didn't feel like Ole Miss brought a ton of pressure all night. And it seems like I don't know if Tennessee was catching them because Ole Miss runs a 3-2-6. So I don't know if they were trying to catch them in times where they felt Ole Miss was going to be more in coverage, and they were trying to, you know, sneak out 7, 8, 9 yards, 10 yards on a run or what. But I think there was a lot of times Tennessee's line didn't get the job done last night also. You're missing 2 of your top 5 guys. When Cade Mays went out on the first series, that was big. That was a big loss for them, and still not having Cooper Mays. Those 2 guys make a big difference. And we haven't seen a lot of Cooper Mays, but we've seen enough to know when he's in, it makes a big difference. I thought Hendon Hooker, really good again last night. First half, not so much. I mean, it just, I don't know. It was seemed like a little more of a conservative game plan. Maybe not. Maybe it was just a case of execution. But at the same time, I mean, anytime Tennessee would get rolling, Ole Miss flop. That's classless, guys. That is classless on Ole Miss. It's going to bring me around to the big talking point of the game. But is this what college football is going to become? And Tennessee did some too. Tennessee laid down a few times also. So they're not without blame, but it's over the top. And I know we had some of our one of our main Arkansas fans who's a good listener of the channel was in, said same thing happened last week with Ole Miss and Arkansas. Something has to be done about this. It has to be done to fix it. It's just, if you can't stop teams, so be it. But this flopping and laying there has to be some kind of a being penalized for it. Not necessarily in the case of yards. Maybe that is. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is on that. And I know Josh Heupel was asked about it after the game, and he said, I'm the wrong guy to answer. We've got rules committees for that, is basically what he said. But two plays that really stand out to me. One was the Matt Corral forward progress was stopped. That whistle never blew. Two referees were running with Tyler Barron down the field on that. The game judge, the main judge in the game, was right there and never blew it dead. That's a touchdown for Tennessee. It was inexplicably taken away, saying that it was forward progress. It's like we said on the post game last night. It's a funny thing. The other 10 guys for Ole Miss hadn't stopped. Corral just stopped. Corral had a bonehead moment. I don't want to say a bonehead moment. I don't know what he heard or whatever. So I'm wrong in saying that. But the bottom line, he messed up and he got rewarded for messing up. And him just stopping while everybody else was playing, I think it honestly confused and threw off the referees who did not blow a whistle. And I don't understand how that was overturned. I still do not understand. If the whistle blew, fine. Okay. There was no whistle blown. There were some people in the post game last night said, oh, yeah, you could hear it. No, you could not. There was no whistle blown on it. And if anybody has proof of that, hey, I'm welcome. I'll gladly eat crow if it blew and I didn't hear it. But majority of people I'm reading, the Go Vols 24/7, they're writers. Same thing. They didn't hear a whistle either based on what I've read. And then, of course, the last play of the game. I'm still kind of dumbfounded on that. You've got to get the ball in the end zone. There's no other way around it. A man who's 6'5", 240 pounds. Okay, if he wants to try to run it and cut it back, hopefully get a block or two and put his head down, try to bulldoze his way in, okay. I can get that, but take off and just lazily run out of bounds at the 9-yard line. That's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen on a football field by a quarterback. And I don't have any more words for it, guys. I had a buddy of mine text me this morning, and I agree. It's either a case of Harrison Bailey is just not that good. Maybe he's not ready. Or he's got to be looking, saying, what do I have to do to get on the field above Joe Milton? Hate to say that. That's where I'm at with it. Just, I try to keep it as kind as possible. That was a horrible, horrible decision. You don't even give yourself a chance to win that game. It's just inexplicable, inexcusable. And we see why Hendon Hooker took off with this. Once he got his chance, he took off with it. Tennessee needs Hendon Hooker at quarterback. There's no other way around it. Tennessee needs him at quarterback. Joe Milton can't get the job done. And I don't know how this line would be for Harrison Bailey, to be honest with you. But I know if it were me, and that's only me, the only way I play Milton is in an emergency situation. I would go Bailey over him moving forward. I just think it's obvious. Sometimes you got to have a quarterback IQ. I don't think Joe Milton has it. I just don't. We can talk about the talent all we want to. If you don't have the head for it, then talent is pointless. But, let's say Joe Milton didn't cost Tennessee the game by any means. There was no guarantee he completes that pass. Tennessee did enough on their own. The officiating did not help. Officiating was below average last night. Many questionable spots, even though I thought the Jacob Warren spot was fair based on where the ball was at. But there were many other spots that were questionable in that game, and I didn't feel any of them benefited Tennessee. The flopping by Ole Miss, and again, Tennessee did it a little bit too. Nowhere near what Ole Miss did. So it's a case of cry wolf. Who knows which of those injuries were actually real? They flopped so many times that the natural reaction is to boo when it happens. It's unfortunate. It stings because it's a violent sport. Injuries are going to happen, but guys lay down on the ground, holding their leg, and then they jog off. Give me a break. Give me a break. And the last thing, and please listen to me on this for a sec. Tennessee fans crossed the line last night. They crossed the line. You don't do it. You cannot do that. That was a bad look. It was a bad look for the program. Hopefully it blows over before too long. But, I mean, the first headline I see on ESPN.com this morning was about Georgia, but it mentioned golf balls flying as well. That's what we're at. And, we can say what we want to about Lane Kiffin. Thankfully, that golf ball did not hit him in the head. Okay? No, regardless of what you think about him, thankfully, it only hit him in the arm. It's a shame it was even thrown, period. But that could have been bad. And thankfully, it wasn't. It was the overall just atmosphere, everything around that program was great last night. Even if that, Tennessee loses that game, if that, the whole throwing debris, throwing golf balls, throwing mustard cans, throwing vape pens, that doesn't happen. Still throughout the game, I seen it on Twitter through media people talking about how awesome of an atmosphere it was last night. And I've read before coming on Walter Nolan and then Jaden Davis, the number one player for 2024 out of Fort Mill, South Carolina. They raved about the experience last night. So I don't know that the incident is going to affect recruiting. People are saying, well, it's ruined recruiting. I don't think it will. Maybe it affects some. I think overall it won't. Seem like Walter Nolan, the 24/7 talked to his dad. Ray really liked the experience. I think you got to like where Tennessee's at, but there's a long way to go with that recruitment. But I'll just quickly explain why it happened. A fumble and scoop was taken off the board for no reason because the officials were incompetent on that. You got Lane Kiffin. Emotions are high. Tensions are high. Boiling up. So many calls that just did not go Tennessee's way last night. All the flopping by Ole Miss. It just all culminated in that. And again, I am not at all defending it. The line was crossed. There was a line you do not cross. But I'm just explaining it. That was a case of a lot of buildup. And frankly, I put that buildup on the referees last night. And again, I'm not saying they cost Tennessee the game, but they sure as hell didn't help them either. And Tennessee had their chances to win that game and didn't. So, I mean, hats off to Ole Miss. They made the plays. They did their things to do. Tennessee's a passionate fan base. I've seen people saying, well, that's why Tennessee's so hated. I'll just frankly say it. Tennessee fans, I think I can speak. I know for me, I think I can speak for our park. We don't care. We do not care anymore because if Tennessee wins, they get mocked. If Tennessee loses, they get mocked. Yeah, they deserve. Tennessee fans deserve, unfortunately, you let maybe couple hundred bad apples ruin it for everybody else last night. That's the case of what happened. And before we say, well, don't serve alcohol at games, they've been sneaking airplane bottles into Neyland Stadium for years. So it's no different than it's ever been. Maybe it's a little more rowdy now in that regard, but it was definitely a bad look. It's inexcusable. can happen. I mean, it was addressed by administration. It was addressed by the SEC Commissioner Josh Heupel. Hopefully, we don't have this again, but I'll counter this as well and say, at what point do these officials get held accountable? At what point do they have to stand in front of the media and ask questions? At what point, we always say, well, they're human. They're a bunch of jerks for the most part who they make mistakes, but there's not much accountability for them. It's like they're a politician with stripes. They make bad decisions and they don't really have to answer for it. So, again, I know why it happened. I wish it wouldn't have happened, and hopefully it never happens again. Thankfully, there's not that I know of people that hopefully nobody got hurt. Haven't heard on that. But where does Tennessee go from here? Alabama next week, 7 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. Is Hendon Hooker available? Still haven't heard anything on him. Are the Mays brothers or Tyon Evans? Are these guys available? It's a tough stretch. Thankfully, after this week, Tennessee gets a bye. They need a bye in a worst way to get healed up. And then I think 7-5 still attainable. I think 6-6 is can definitely happen. Georgia, Alabama, they're going to have it is what it is. Kentucky, it's still a good Kentucky team. So I'm running into about the 17-minute mark. I always want to try to go 10 minutes, and I guess I just can't stop talking. But a lot to talk about from last night. I'm still proud of this program. I'm proud of what this coaching staff is doing. With so many departures, 71 scholarship players, key injuries last night, and they're still competing with the number 13 team in the nation. Team who, looking at their schedule in Ole Miss, they may not lose another game. They may be a one-loss team at the end of the season. This staff's showing they can coach. They're showing they can develop. I can't wait to see what the years to come, what they can do once they replenish that cupboard, once they add to it, once they develop depth, once they get a full allotment of scholarships. What can this staff do? It's going to still take some time, but I love what they're doing. We saw them make adjustments at halftime last night. That was a big question I had. They did it. Just got to clean up the mistakes. And I think we can look at each loss and look at those mistakes as big difference, especially Pitt and Ole Miss. Those mistakes were big difference makers. But once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Tennessee football it's on the rise. I truly believe that. It's got a ways to go. But I think we've got guys who's going to get us there. Again, thank you for staying with us late last night. Thank you guys that check this out. Please leave me any feedback, any comments on here as well. But I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday. Be sure to be with us Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Pre-game tailgate next week at 6 for Alabama, and then we'll be post-game as well. But hope you guys enjoy your Sunday. Take care. My name's the Indie Kid. This is Talkin' VAWLS podcast. Go Big Orange.